we're bringing up a slide for y'all. It's on both sides, so. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. Some of you were here for Clean and Beautiful Town Hall Phase 1. Show of hands, please. I know I'm talking with about 3 or 4 or 5. Okay. All right, cool. So this is Phase 2. We've taken some of your inputs and crunched those, did some research, brought back some feedback and whatnot. This slide deck is not Portalis. This is just something I put together very quick to remind us of what we talked about last time, some of the information and things like that that we picked up and where we think we're going. Pretty simple. And then we'll get to the public comment part where we're all discussing with each other. So Phase 2, next slide, please. Meeting purpose, I talked about that a little bit. Phase 2 objectives, we're going to remind you of what we talked about. Then we're going to get some information or some ideas from folks and continue to move forward in the course of community engagement. And transparency expectations, read it down there. But, we want to be open, honest, and transparent and get ideas from everybody and share what we find based on ideas, etc. Keep you up to date on timelines. We'll touch base with that a little bit. And we're getting in the window. You'll see that in a few minutes about submitting our requests for the annual Clean and Beautiful grant. We'll keep you abreast of those timelines. Next slide, please. For those of you who weren't here, we will do a quick refresh. For those of you who were, you'll remember some of this. Program, it is Clean and Beautiful is largely a New Mexico grant program. Provides opportunities for municipalities, counties, tribal governments, etc., to reduce litter, beautify communities, and basically help out. And it's not a very big grant, but it does help you out with some with things as far as reducing litter, youth activities, community engagement, and beautification programs. And then also focus on doing this every year with ideas and thoughts that can be sustainable and keep this moving forward. Next slide, please. Some of the things I just mentioned: littering, waste reduction, beautification of communities, youth empowerment, and increasing community program capacity. Next slide. Let's talk about what we talked about. Next slide, please. Some of the things Portalis has done in the past and been successful on the Clean and Beautiful grant program. Now, keep in mind, this is not a very big grant. For those of you who are new to this and have not talked about this before, Clean and Beautiful for even some of the biggest cities in New Mexico is usually about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. That's extremely successful. $10,000, $15,000 a year. That's pretty standard for communities across the state. But some of the things Portalis has helped out with at the educational level is composting and worm gardens with the schools. Sustainable procurement, purchase picnic tables made from 100% recycled materials, promote environmentally responsible purchasing. There's a lot of can't do's in this grant, and there's a lot of can do's. But to give you an example, recyclable materials used for things like benches, structures, decorations, whatever, those types of things, that's a big deal. So focused always on environment, sustainability, and things like that. So you'll see a lot of recycling. You'll see a lot of cannot do's. That's fine. We'll find our ways around those to be able to do things for the community, but we'll talk about a list of things you can't do in a couple of minutes. Big on youth-led activities. Now here it says youth-led cleanup events. The city has done that, but anything kind of youth leadership, youth-led, youth engagement, those kind of things, this is big on. Now I'll give you an example. You cannot use professional services here. Like we can't get an architect with this. Now, if there were a bunch of underage architects, you could do that. I don't know how many there are, or how good they are, or how experienced they are. But if it was a youth contractor service or youth construction, I don't know how many of those are, but you could do that. But if they're not youths, to quote a movie, if anybody's with me on that one, if somebody got that, thank you. I'll be here. If there were, we could do that with them, but and then the composting support schools around here, some of them have composting programs that we can help fund. some of those types of things, and we've done that in the past, been pretty successful. Next slide. We need some feedback from folks. That's why we like to have these town halls. We like to solicit feedback, get your ideas, crunch those ideas and things like that. Put them in the can-do list if we can do them, and kind of explain why we can't do some of the things. If we can't get that feedback and prioritize stuff, so we kind of know where we can go in the future with these things, specifically with community feedback. Now, think about it. If we set up here, which oftentimes we do, without feedback, and we try to think that our best guess for the community, we do the best we can. But communities really work when communities are engaged, and that's why it's so important for you to be here. So thanks for that. Kind of repeating some of the stuff that I just talked about on the last slide, but just in different terms, so you can read that on your own. Arts are a big deal. Back on that youth comment, I had big deals on youth, murals, artwork, stuff like that. So when we start to understand these grants, some of these things are really trigger words and trigger points. So we will most likely, we'll do our due diligence, and I am very confident that we will get something. But as a community, when we take those somethings and we turn them into something like multipliers, i.e. we want some artwork, and we start thinking, okay, we could probably get a grant for artwork. But if we start turning that into youth artwork in an educational format, then it starts to go up exponentially in terms of one, securing a grant, but two, probably the size of that grant as well. So there's some tricks to this kind of stuff. Being smart about it, that's what we're doing here, is really a multiplier, and that helps out a lot. Focus on underserved areas. Think about it. How many grants does Beverly Hills need? Probably not too many, right? But other communities around Beverly Hills that probably are, believe it or not, it's not too far away from Beverly Hills where it starts to drop off. And they're pretty underserved areas. But when you start to think about those, not many people want a grant, and why would they? Beverly Hills, but other parts of the community that kind of need an assistant, they want to, right? And it works like that. So we're going to do the same types of things. We're going to look at some of our areas and things like that, and the ones that are a little more underserved and where to target those. And we're going to get some feedback from you and see how we can do that.
They define underserved.
Oh, I'd have to be honest with you. So the question was, how do they define underserved? If I'm being brutally honest, I'm going to go to the web and go in Portales, what's an underserved area? And then I'm going to go to AI and say, what's an underserved area? And then I'm going to take a question from, I saw a raised hand. From yourself, go ahead.
A lot of times it has to do with census. And so the census will tell you if you are underserved or the population, it goes by population, income, that type of thing. So a lot of times it's that way.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes by what the product or good or service is as well. Like I read this morning on a grant that we have pending, needs a signature that we're considered underserved and rural when it comes to electric vehicle charging, just because we don't have any, things like that. So things go. Now we have plenty of rural, but I don't know how many EVs we have, things like that. So there's some ebbs and flows to that as well. Okay. All right, next slide, please. I think we're gonna start talking about some of the can't do's along with some of the can do's on that. Was that my breathing? That was weird.
Not sure. I moved it up.
Was that 2 slides or 1? Okay, let's go ahead and go forward 1. Thank you. I got confused. So in the last meeting, phase 1, there were some questions and thoughts, so we wouldn't research those and see these are some things that we came up with based on research. Now that's kind of cool. In the background, you see a mural, kids art. I think it's kid art there. But there's a question about painting crosswalks in the city. You can paint crosswalks in the city. You can paint them, in this case, it says in your schools. That's allowed. But there's some catches. So we cannot paint the state highways. So New Mexico Department of Transportation, those aren't ours. We can't paint them. City-owned streets, you can paint them, but there's some stipulations. And if you use the paint that you use has to be that enduring commercial grade on the pavement type of semi trucks can run over it and it basically lasts for a long time kind of paint. I think that's on the description in the back. Semis can run over it, lasts a long time. So is the juice worth the squeeze on that? I don't know. Is there a lot of yellow reflective paint like that? Probably. A lot of white reflective paint like that, probably. And then the colors probably start to drop off after that because that's most of the street signs for those types of things. But the answer is yes, you can do it, but those are the stipulations, okay? A couple of ineligible expenses, you can read those on your own, but property abatements, basically what we're talking about is can clean and beautiful be used to tear down properties and things like that? The answer is no, it can't be. If it could, we would have to own the property first and then we could kind of look at it from there, but it's really not gonna do too much of that, okay? Like it says, architectural or professional design services are not eligible for funding. So we can do things, but we can't do whole projects like plan, design, construct. Youth mural painting, youth organizations can be paid for mural painting on city buildings as youth labor is eligible. That sounds weird, doesn't it? Most of the time we're talking about youth labor is not eligible, but in this case, we can fund youths to make murals, paint murals. We can get them supplies, I believe, to do murals and things like that. This is a big one, raised garden bed support. So there's a lot of things that you cannot buy for construction materials. I don't think you can get like rocks and granite and gravel. I think that's on the no-go list, but you can get raised garden beds. In this case, it says alleys because those some of the projects they've done before, like alley gardens and things. But I don't think it's restricted to alleys. I think you can do raised garden beds and around some buildings, in some parks, in alleys and things like that. Our community is not awesome. We're going to talk about alley gardens. Our community is not awesome for alley gardens, with a few exceptions. But in the straightaways and the alleys, they're pretty narrow. So the gardens would kind of be at risk on that. But once in a while, in the inner and outer curves in alleys, there's some dead space or some space that probably wouldn't be damaged by traffic in different times of the year and things like that. So they might be on a case by case basis discussed, but for all intents and purposes, our alleys are not super awesome for alley gardens, things like that.
We have plenty of alley beds, we just don't have alley garden beds.
Oh, I think that's a play on people throwing the beds in the alleys. Maybe someone saw phase one and they wanted to be proactive and we just got it wrong. I don't know. Comments on the alley, on the alleys or anything, anyone? Okay. Next slide. That gets pretty small. Looks a lot bigger on your computer when you're looking right at it, a couple inches away. Items not eligible for funding. It excludes irrigation systems, lighting fixtures, landscaping pavers, rock, fabric, playground equipment. I love this one. Anybody want to see that next one? Yeah, so apparently if I want a set of jousting gloves made of steel, we're good to go. But leather, that's no way. Excluded operational costs. Fuel disinfectant, office supplies, heavy equipment rentals, Sherry, how they qualify heavy equipment, I don't know. On that one, I'm thinking tractors and stuff. General labor costs are not funded except youth subcontractors. There they go. So if anybody knows that those youth subcontractors out there, let me know, we'll get extra small hard hats. Yes, ma'am.
That answers the question about entertainment for our youth. We can put them all to work.
It said Sherry, not Scott. Scott didn't say that. Sherry. Focus on sustainable projects. Limitations, as it says, limitations, promote practical, sustainable, low maintenance beautification, using recycled materials and volunteer efforts. Big on volunteers as well. So you can get the volunteer stuff together. For example, if volunteers get together and they need, I think vests are covered, weren't they, like the reflective vests, trash bags, and not leather gloves. Other stuff to help clean up and beautification efforts. Those things can a lot of times be funded for volunteers to assist in. Even advertising, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for volunteer stuff can be funded if need to be. So it's really weird. You have to check very close on the clean and beautiful on what is funded and isn't funded, etc. So yeah, next slide, please. Some of the things that have worked for other folks in the past. Pocket park beautification, we'll talk about pocket parks in a couple of minutes if anybody wants to. Alleyway gardens, we talked about youth engagement initiatives, kind of touched on that, neighborhood beautification. Education's a big deal as well. So if it costs something to go out there and educate folks or have other folks educate other folks or anything like that, you know, it can be funded. So just food for thought as we work as a community, move forward and doing some grant procurement initiatives. Next slide. FY 27 is coming up. The window opens for grant applications. First week in March, closes the first week in April. We'll probably do one more of these, and it might be a projection kind of telling you what we've come up with and smoothing out some of the wrinkles. We will have to draw up narratives and project descriptions. So if we start to prioritize, if we come up with some ideas as a community and we start to prioritize them, then we'll have to start describing them with a narrative and putting the keywords that we believe will hit higher marks in grant procurement.
And on that note, this has actually become quite a competitive grant. In the past, not as many have applied. And now more and more engagement is happening. And so our projects should come up with pretty good narratives and get them excited. That's what we're looking for. Catch their attention, get them excited for what we're gonna do with our community.
Next slide, please. One more. Really soliciting your input. Asking you to help prioritize with some thoughts. Using the keywords and not just the words, but think through how we're going to do some of it to help it be more effective in grant procurement, i.e. volunteers, youths, education, things like that. I can say youth. I can do that. I just like the word youths. And then we own it and the words on it and so on. And when I started looking up things like pocket parks and murals and community mural boards and mural walls and things, it was really big on local community, like ward-based mural walls with involvement from the ward of putting the walls up and then prepping them, and then the people from around. I mean, one ward could go to another and do whatever, but having the community help put it up and then them using it and then annually replacing it. And give you an anecdotal example. One of the things that was recommended was making mural walls out of sheets of heavy grade plywood on posts that are cemented in. And then from year to year, one year you go and you smooth it all out and you prime it, sand it, prime it, and get it ready, and let the local schools or teams, clubs or whatever put their murals on there, let it stand for a year or so. And then instead of like maintaining it, just tear down the sheets of wood, take them off. The next year, put another set of, $300 or $400, and it's prepped every year. And once you have the base wall set up, then you apply for more plywood, but you have the community get involved in putting it together, sanding it, priming it, and getting it ready to go. And by describing how you're going to put that mural wall up with community engagement, sustainable, replacing it year after year, and having the local teammates in that area put it together and prep it, that scored like really high marks for community engagement, youth, sustainability, and artwork. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 keywords in there that makes that project go to the top for the grant application and procurement process. So those were a big deal. And I think I was talking about civic ownership there, just to give that example. So next slide. And I think we're going to start turning this over to the group now for just some of the thoughts on the can and can't do's. We've already covered the can and can't do's. So take a look at the calls for ideas and final remarks. Give you a second. And honestly, I don't know what slide's next. Let's flip through a couple of them here. See if we're getting towards the end. How apropos. Okay, so there we are. We're back on calls for ideas and final remarks. Really just wanted to re-blue everybody on kind of where we started with phase 1, the can do's, the can't do's. We did get about 3 or 4 or 5 ideas last time. And you know, we kind of briefed you where we are with those. Can you paint the streets? Yes, you can. This is how you engage it, so on and so forth. But now that we've been back through it, the floor is yours. If you don't mind, let's open up some discussion, dialogue, thoughts, things like that. We'll write them down, keep them as notes, and move forward.
Yeah. Couple of questions, so considering the gardens, could those gardens be put inside the city park? As like a community garden or something like that?
They. So they can, but we definitely want to make sure that we have, maintenance as a plan to go along with everything, so. When you're filling out for these grants, you can't just say, okay, so I wanna do this. And then tell them why and the beautifulness of it and everything, they wanna see your maintenance plan. What are you gonna do to keep it going? Because they don't wanna do funding for something that's just gonna die in the next season. And then you have to ask for money to redo it again. So they wanna see your maintenance, so we would have to look into that.
And next question. I think water systems were restricted. Does that include like rainwater capture system being excluded? Or, I know that's throwing something on you.
I'm gonna say yes.
Would fall under infrastructure, and so I would say yes.
Thank you.
But we got a plan for that.
I know.
Okay.
Let's go next.
I have a quick
So are you
question.
taking notes?
I,
From Liliana Siegel. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure we're capturing what people come up with. So there you go. Go ahead.
I wasn't quite here for the beginning, I was in a meeting for events committee and stuff.
We were talking about term limits, just for them. Those are getting.
What? When it comes to like funding for like grants and stuff, well, that, when you mentioned it applies for like volunteership stuff. I know the Bank GP Stone wants to do this event every year for a roundup for Ron for downtown. Would that event be like included for like equipment and stuff for that? Or would that not be under this?
I think that we could make that part of everything, as like a collaboration effort. I think that would be good. I think that would be great, actually.
Yeah, for things that JP Stone needed, like trash bags, I think like vests, safety vests and things, because that effort is a cleanup. Right, so you're getting rid of litter and you're making the place more beautiful. I think that clearly qualifies. Now, JP Stone went and got a bunch of youth subcontractors to kind of put it together and all that. You'd even go higher on the ranking list. I'm not even joking about that. So the more you can hit those keywords, beautification, murals, youth, litter, anti-litter, etc., sustainability, the higher you're gonna rank on that deal. So for sure.
Not good.
So one of my favorite things about visiting Durango, Colorado, it's their downtown, is all of the beautiful, colorful flowers that are hanging outside of every single store in their downtown area. It's just so vibrant and beautiful. It draws you in and makes you want to be a part of whatever they have going on in the community. So again, I'm wondering, is there a way we can bring that to Portales in our downtown area, bring that color, bring that vitality, that thrill of life going on in our community when people come into the center and they're going through the main street, that they see all the community, all the stores have these out there. I know that out at our waste treatment, water waste treatment plant, that we may be sitting on the opportunity to use compost that's out there. I know it's got to get tested and everything, but could we not use that to help donate to some of our vendors down here, and if they get like their pots or their hanging plants? And then I ran into another gentleman when I was door knocking. He works for a company that they are always trying to get rid of 5-gallon drums, because that's just what they collect. That's part of what they do, and they're always trying to get rid of those. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we could get some of those and donate those to some of our businesses downtown, where we could have a gutter in the back of their businesses where they can collect rainwater into those drums, so we're not paying for the drums necessarily. They've been donated, and maybe just the cost of the gutter getting on there, and then they can use that rainwater that they're catching for their plants outside or their plants inside.
That was a lot. There's a lot in there. But let's think this through for a second. Let's think it through because we want to get money for the grant. Okay, so how would we, yes, is the answer to your question. So let's see, let's get some group participation. How would we make this happen? Adults, contractors, or Utes subcontractors. Okay, so how do we get some Utes involved? Now we got 5-gallon buckets. We want flowers, and I'm just making this up as I go, but let's think this through. We want to get a high score. We want to get this funded, okay? So someone's donating buckets. Maybe we get Utes. I can say youth. We have, we know at the wastewater treatment plant, we have organic compost, okay? So if we put a project together that's educational, youth, decorative, artistic, and make that all come together in time and space, would we have a really high probability of hitting a grant for that?
Yep.
I would argue we do. Okay, so if someone put that together as a project, get the kids, youth, do a gardening project, 5-gallon buckets, they grow those flowers. The flowers start to grow, they disseminate those flowers, then they track them, follow them through their life cycle, then redo it again, and we're gonna continue to do that as a science kind of thing, whatever, together. I think you're onto something, because we help ourselves, we got organic compost, we got volunteerism, because people are donating some stuff, people are teaching kids, they would probably get the seeds and some of the things you need, not leather gloves, but they might get the trowels and things like that to help out with that. Now we're starting to hit high on these marks. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yes is the answer to your question, but I think by putting it together like that in a group thing, we would hit really high on the marks of getting that done and continue to do that all the time and be known for that. Yes.
It could even educate the kids on rainwater recycling.
100%.
Yeah.
Passive and active rainwater capture, harvesting, passive and active rainwater harvesting for sure. Yes.
If you collaborate with, like the Kiwanis Club that does their annual flower sale.
Yes.
If you were to collaborate with a group like the Kiwanis Club that does their annual flower sale, and get those from them and the kids plant are ready to go plants. Then you would have instant, rather than waiting for planting, and sprouts.
Greenhousing and stuff like that. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We just want to make sure that while we're doing all of this, that we are doing some type of permanency of the planting, so that way. It's not just temporary, and then you have to come back again the next year and then do more temporary. So the beginning of what Mr. Minton is saying, is to be able to actually have the gardens and then all those, and then transplant those into the hanging baskets and that type of thing. Because then you have the permanency.
Well, the geraniums and the petunias that the Kiwanis Club sells are annuals, but you get your project off the ground right away first year.
Cool. I like it. Sherry, you had something?
Well, I was only half joking about it. If we got some of our young people to work on constructing raised beds or something in the alleys, wouldn't they be a little bit more likely to suggest to mom and dad that throwing a mattress in the dumpster is not a good idea?
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I like where you're going with
It
that.
might be a win-win in two ways. We could clean up the alley a little and make it productive. Because there's nothing like growing plants to inspire kids to do other things that are good.
No, I like where you're going with that. I think 100%, actually, I think your question was a Socratic one. I think you knew what I was gonna say, so you were just putting it out there and you knew the answer. And I love the logic. I think that's great. I didn't think about it, but I don't know. I think it'd be hard for someone to disagree that if we took ownership and pride in our alleys, right? And we invested in some of the, and I kind of think this is where you're going with it.
That might move out front and they quit throwing the styrofoam cups out of the car window.
I cannot stand those.
I just think a beautification is they have to feel some ownership to participate.
100%.
And building something gives them ownership.
I like the idea. I think we should, if we wrote it down, I think we should run with that a little more. as well. And if we get to the point where we're requesting bills of material type of materials for alley gardens, I think that's what's called, right? Alley gardens?
Alleyway gardens, yeah.
Yeah, that we take that thought and run with it, that it's not just putting a garden in an alley, so I go get some radishes and carrots at the end of the season, but by taking ownership in that, you take pride in it and you don't want someone, we don't want people littering anywhere if we can help it, but taking that pride and ownership kind of takes it down to another level of keep your trash out of my garden type of thing, right?
We can hope that.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't start, you never get
Now,
started.
do we have any youth groups organized, or is that going to be a major part of the problem?
Oh, I don't know. I think that there's all, I don't know if there's any specific youth groups on the starting line waiting to go, but I think it'll happen. Yeah.
If you were talking about building things, local FFA and 4-H organizations, that makes a great project for things like that, you know, I mean, I know even FFA classes at all the high schools, they do those types of things for a grade, you know, they have kids build things and then on top of it being like, you know, a volunteer effort or something like that. So we have a lot of those groups.
I love the idea. I think our imagination is only limited by ourselves. You know, I tend to take stuff over the top, but I would love to see the alleyway gardens with a camera and then over to watch it and then over the seasons play it in fast motion, you know, like 12 speed forward and watch my stuff grow, but also catch the people throwing the styrofoam cups down, you know, but that's a different level. I'll put the camera out there to talk about time lapse photography so I can watch my beans grow, but looking for the cup thrower.
Since the city owns some of the vacant lots around the town, can we use those to make the pocket parks? That way we already have the land.
I think the question was, if the city already owns some lots or something like that, can we use those potentially to make pocket parks? Gosh darn it, I think we could make pocket parks.
I think that we possibly could, we can use the grant and the funding in order to purchase. The beautifying part, you know, not the infrastructure, but the flowers, the type of things, you know, just not stones, that type of stuff. You have to make sure that you look at everything and only purchase the things that we can actually purchase.
Is anybody not familiar with pocket parks? It's okay.
I'm not, I've not heard of them.
I love the fact that two of you aren't familiar with pocket parks. Can you bring up the pocket park? The pocket park slide deck?
Okay, do we have? Has anyone thought about community gardens, as in, let's feed people? They have to go out there and dig in the dirt and play in the dirt, and that's a good therapeutic thing. And then they grow something and actually eat it. What a concept. Is that possible?
I don't think it's impossible.
I've seen
I think it's
community
possible.
gardens in other
Yeah.
places, and they've been very successful with the whole neighborhood participating.
100%. I think that's doable.
First, there's some education involved. But, and that part is usually by volunteers.
I think that if we were to look into stuff like the Clean and Beautiful. And to put some concepts down with community gardens and state objectives. Not state as in New Mexico, but for us to declare objectives of the community gardens. Possibly work with the Chamber of Commerce and the farmers market. To get youth involved with maybe business activities and farming to do that and tie that all together. From cradle to grave, so to speak, we could I don't see why we couldn't. And I think it would be an amazing opportunity all the way around to do that, something like that. So I think that the best finance director of the city is writing that down right now. We're gonna capture that.
We don't have a grant right now. We're still just applying for a grant, right?
Well, the question was, we don't have a grant right now. We're still just applying for the grant. Yes and no. So we have been very successful with this grant. It happens every year. So we're operating on one grant period right now, and we're applying for the next grant period going forward. So for the 27 application, we don't have one because we haven't applied yet, but for last year and the year before, we've been very successful with this grant. So yeah, our grant application and the projects in it are limited by our imagination right now and the fact that you can't get leather gloves. So, ta-da. But tell you what, let's take a look at some things. I jammed this together really quick. That does not make me the subject matter expert. I just took some web-based materials and put together a very quick concept on a Portales rain and shade pocket park. Okay, so next slide, please. Next slide. So I put this together real quick. That's not Portales, but pocket parks are usually about the size of one house footprint, like where a house would be, maybe 100 feet by 100 feet, something like that, 120, 120. Usually community centered, they're sustainable water management. In this case, we want to do rainwater capture, rainwater harvesting, solar, so that we will not use public electricity. We won't have a bill. We will pay our own way as we go. We'll harvest the water from one forecasted year of rainfall in a cistern, and our solar will pump bits of water on native flora and fauna, and it'll water itself. Okay. Renewable energy, I talked about that with solar and native landscaping and the native landscaping theme. So that all works with the sun and environment that we have here. So that's basically the concept. It would be self-sustaining, but enjoyable by all. Next slide. Next slide. That's just an example of a sunshade over a cistern. Anybody know on average what Portales theoretically is supposed to get per year in annual rainfall? You're not gonna be wrong.
16 inches.
What is it, 10 inches?
I have a counselor says 16 inches. I have 10 inches. Anybody else?
That's 26.
26? Okay, anybody else?
Average 17, but lately, or prior to last year, 11.
Okay, prior to last year, 11. If you go to the web, try to find out the average, it'll say Portales about 15 to 17. 15 to 17 per year. And then it's not on here. I'm not special. I've used the internet and AI for everything. I factored a little calculator based on steel roofs, runoff coefficients, etc. How many gallons per 1 inch of rain? It's pretty substantial, and you'd be surprised. On 1,000 square feet, how many gallons of water you get over a year on a 1,000 square foot roof? It's a lot. But anyway, the concept here is an overhead structure that's durable. It collects rainwater through gutters, puts it in a cistern. This is happening. We don't have a lot of shade. So, provide shade and recreational activities underneath the shaded area. And we don't use power because we factor a couple solar panels into it. And then we use that water. We put our own kind of landscaping around there and whatnot. Okay, next slide.
And we do one side with a windbreak that's got a mural painted on it by a kid.
Well,
We need a windbreak.
yeah. So that's now what we just described. Yes is the short answer. I mean, that's factored into this. So the mural walls are kind of the windbreaks, right?
Yeah.
So, but they also have to be set up so that you can see them in a direct line, and it doesn't obscure like vagrancy and things like that. So you have the design is pretty simple, but it's also an open design. But the murals are put in to block prevailing winds, and then some overhead type thing to collect rainwater and provide solar, etc. Next slide. And this is just very generic, okay? You can get the idea on solar. 2 panels, battery storage, minimal, powered irrigation and lighting. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about clean and beautiful. This has to be a hybrid to make this happen. Clean and beautiful is not going to do lighting, and it's not going to do irrigation. We've got to do that through Office of State Engineer grants, or we've got to fund it on our own. Now, funding on our own sounds pretty scary. So far, everything you've heard so far, give me an estimate. What does somebody think it would cost to put something like this in a standard where an old house was demolished, burnt down, something like that, and we took it out of there? We're going to put a micro park or pocket park. With everything we talked about so far, anybody have an idea? Big. I got one over on this side.
250.
250, ma'am.
Way on the low end.
Don't let him. Oh, he might be crazy.
For a start,
How much?
20,000.
Okay, anybody else?
I was thinking 50,000.
50,000. Okay, anybody else?
Depending on how much volunteers you do.
Okay.
You might have
contractors. People that would be willing to volunteer their time and equipment to do a lot of this stuff.
You bet.
It would
Okay.
cheapen it up a lot.
And the publicity, right? Okay. So far, we know that we can't do all of this with clean and beautiful, but we know we could do a lot of it with clean and beautiful. And we know there's other folks out there who are big into renewable energy, sustainable energy, education, murals, artwork, all of this. We bring this together in time and space. Okay, next slide. Rainwater harvesting, we're not going to use the city's water, we're going to use the water that God gives us. And we are allowed to collect it. We don't need a permit. If we're going to collect it on that site, we use it on that site. So we're already in the clear there. Next slide. Next slide. We're going to get folks in there raising radishes, carrots, etc. So Sherry's going to help out, lead the volunteerism over at the farmers market and teach all those kids about farming and free enterprise. That's going to work real well. And pollinator gardens, little pollinator gardens are a big deal as well, to attract bees and butterflies, so they help out with other stuff. Those are a big deal. That's a huge thing for the Clean and Beautiful grant. So we're going to make sure we put some flora and fauna in there that attracts butterflies and bees. Okay. Next slide. Keep in mind, this is just a concept right here. Next slide. All kinds of folks get a shot at all kinds of things to make this happen. Kind of on the bottom there, it's not necessarily cleaning up our alleys, but think about it for neighborhood revitalization, cleaning up. Now, this isn't an alley. This is a pocket park, but the same concept. Take pride in it, keep pride in it, and foster it. Okay, next slide. I thought the cost estimate slide was on there. To the answer, high end, $50,000 to put that in. If you were just pay for it out of pocket. Low end, about $28,000 to $30,000. So these are completely doable. And someone asked me a question the other day. He said, when we knock these buildings down, like when a building goes bad and it's abandoned, it's whatever, and the city can afford it, we knock it down. What are we going to do with the properties? Well, the answer is, I don't know. Sell them, auction them, make something happen with them. But this is a completely doable. If we decide as a community, a pocket park type concept, rainwater capture, clean energy, harvesting the sun, put it all together, having a community garden, a place to do murals, artwork, teaching people things like that, using grants like Clean and Beautiful, we can make these kind of things happen. We can make them affordable, educational, and commuter engaged. And I think we're on our way to doing it. Okay, so the answer is $50,000 on the high end, $30,000 on the low end is about where we are. So I just wanted to familiarize folks with the pocket park concept, as we feel like we might be leaning towards some of that. Okay, more solicitation from and feedback from the team in front of me.
I don't mean to be annoying with the microphone. We can hear each other, but the recording can't hear you guys unless you're on the microphone. So in 2 weeks, when we go back to listen, the only people we're gonna hear are the ones on the microphone. That's why I'm running it around.
I have a quick question about pocket parks. Do the pocket parks include like the little triangle sections on University? I don't know if those are the correct size or if those sizes are too small. For pocket park, you mentioned those like 100 feet, 100 feet to 120, 120 feet.
Oh, I don't think there's, I mean, come on, none of these can fit in anybody's pocket. Right? So I think it's just a name, and I don't think there's really a specific size assigned to them. So I think it's a small. What do you do? Sometimes properties are, what do you do with this little property between two houses? You know, if nobody else is going to build there, well, you leave it and then you try to figure out how to knock the weeds down because nobody wants to do that. You figure out how to get the grocery carts out of it because people throw them in there. Someone abandons a car, blah, 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 blah. So maybe, yeah, I don't see why not, but I don't know if we own those or not. You know, so to get grants and things like this, we have to own the property. Just keep that in mind. I don't think the size matters as much as the fact that we own them. Okay.
I've seen videos where people would take awkwardly lined up or awkwardly large dead space inside of either like on the edge of an intersection or in the middle of an intersection or something like that, and they would turn it into this kind of pocket park.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we could take something like that, like somewhere on University and Abilene, that strange middle area that nobody really knows what to do with whenever they're driving by. We could do something with that space.
I'm gonna ask one clarifying question first. Is that particular space state or is that city?
University in Abilene should be
It's
safe.
city, but it's paved.
Yes. It is all, it's paved, but it's just this awkward dead space.
Yeah, I'll bet the seeds blow away way before they take the. I'll be here all week, okay, joke there, I mean, the short answer is yes, I mean, could we do something with that, of course, so, I'm going somewhere with this, we're obviously not gonna plant on top of the concrete. But under Clean and Beautiful, if we wanted to say we want a raised garden, they're really big on raised gardens, right, raised, flower bed type things. So again, we have to put our minds together and go, no, we're not gonna plant on concrete, that's crazy, wait a minute, oh, youth. Raised garden, put a mural on one side of the raised garden.
Containers.
Contain, right, okay, and then it starts to come together, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just hit 4 out of 7 things, I probably have a pretty high probability of getting that, I don't see why not. And all of us, like I would have never thought about that, and that's why it takes a community really to come up and go, what about that weird space over there? Like, that's a great one. Assuming there's not a bunch of black tire marks right there, so we put a raised garden bed, we know someone's gonna run over really fast, we don't wanna do that. And we gotta make sure that it doesn't block line of sight or something else, so there is more stuff to do with it, but yeah, nothing's off the table, you know, this is why it's so cool to have everybody. It's obviously not everybody, what do we have, 15 people other than the city staff? It's a start, we're getting people here, but collectively, with you guys being here and bringing these up is amazing, otherwise it's Joe. On a Friday at 5:30, going, where do we put the next thing? You know? Okay.
I mean, I'm creative, but it runs out sometimes.
So I mentioned this along with the pool the other night, when we talked about the pool, a splash pad and incorporating that with a sensory park. Well, I was just looking it up, and sensory parks are really big with grants, they really like sensory parks, and they can be used in pocket parks as well. So that would be another avenue to pursue, perhaps, to do some, do you know what sensory parks are?
No, and I didn't make a slide deck.
Right, well, let's slide this time. A sensory park is primarily designed for young children that have sensory issues, or somebody that works with young people like that. Help me with the lingo. Debbie, you have the lingo for it, okay. So they're mainly geared towards children that have difficulty with the world around them, sensory with the world around them, you know, stimulation, maybe overstimulation, things like that. And to draw them out, I was just reading about how a lot of sensory parks can be set up to encourage children with some of these challenges to play together, you know, and to interact and that sort of thing. So creating a safe environment for them where they can grow and learn and maybe build some relationships one with another. So like I said, it was internet research, right? I say that, but just as a quick run, I just looked at they were good for grants, and yes, they are, and you can build them in pocket parks.
Awesome, thank you. It sounds like you should have them in parks for kids and then at bars about 2 a.m.
Can we add these cistern and rainwater collection type to the parks that we already have?
The question is, can we add the cisterns and rainwater collection to the parks that we already have? That's something completely different, but the short answer is yes. We have a meeting tomorrow at noon with a representative from the Office of State Engineers about active rainwater harvesting and passive rainwater harvesting. So yes, and when you think about rainwater harvesting in Portales, I mean, granted, we think about water all the time, but one of the things that active rainwater harvesting off of larger structures, or a lot of residential structures at the same time, is it takes all that runoff and puts it in temporary storage as opposed to on 18th Street or Globe Street at that critical time. You know, if we could get to that point, it would greatly reduce our drainage. Now, our drainage is good, but our drainage isn't so good that when the deluges come towards the end of the summer, you know, usually in a couple of hours they run off. But if we could just kind of temporarily hold some of that water and use it, it would change the dynamic for our drainage. So as a city manager, when I'm talking about rainwater harvesting, rainwater capture, I don't want to necessarily keep it forever. I just want to delay it in many cases so that 18th can drain naturally And then we can let the rest of the stuff go in the gardens back in the earth and things like that. So, yeah, we're doing a full court press on that tomorrow, and our first meeting with the state engineer folks is tomorrow. You'll hear a lot more of that in the future.
Even just the capture off of this building.
This is building number one. This is ground zero for Portales. But yes, you're right. I think this is an estimated 20,000 square foot roof steel, which has the lowest or the highest coefficiency rating. So this is a prime target to set up for active rainwater harvest, and immediately we're aligned with the park, so we can put it right back on the park. We're allowed to do that without having another permit. Now, this is not clean and beautiful, but if you hear anybody talk about capture rainwater in one structure, then pipe it to the other side of town, completely different concept. That takes a permit that the state of New Mexico has never let. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. We'll try it in the future probably, but today's not the day. We're gonna do passive and active rainwater harvesting, where you harvest it at that location and use it at that location. Yes, ma'am.
Does making sure that it's ADA accessible help with the grant?
It's
It's a pocket.
negotiable. It has to be there.
Good.
Okay,
Everyone's trying to think of something. We do have some projects that we've been thinking about that involve some of my building and murals that will go out there, just to kind of get you guys started too. We've approached Ian and you to do the animal shelter, to do a mural on half of the animal shelter for the greyhounds. Something happened, and then we're gonna be approaching the high school to do a ram on the other side. And then every year we try to do Clean and Beautiful to do a mural out in the airport. The graduating class says graduating class of whatever now go put their handprints out. So if you guys have community ideas like that too, those have success in being funded, and it's a lot of fun for them.
I personally want a greyhound chasing a cat so that the cats are not underserved.
I don't know if that's so happy for the cat.
I'd be so happy for the great. I'll make sure.
It's smart dog to let it go. So next steps. Ms. Rivera is capturing the things that we talked about. We will turn those into electrons, and then we'll put them in concepts. The next time we meet, we're gonna rack and stack those and give you some ideas on rack and stack, get your feedback, and then we'll put them where we think priority 1, 2, 3, and 4 are for our asks. And then we'll start to shape up the narrative for the grant, and we'll get that into the state between the 2nd of March and the 2nd of April. And I know in my heart of hearts, we're gonna get something, but I want to get as much somethings as we can. Okay, floor's still open, anybody?
Before, I just wanted to put this out there to please remember that this grant is volunteer driven and requires consistency. So great ideas, amazing ideas, we have to be consistent to continue it so that nothing dies. Right.
So, I gotta take off, but one thing I wanted to say before is, I wanted to thank Joe. I know it's gonna embarrass you, I'm sorry. Let's see how red we can make her face. I wanna thank you for all the work that you've done on this Clean and Beautiful. I know a whole bunch of this for the city of Portales is coming right out of that little office of yours. So very much appreciate your efforts on this. So anyway, that's it.
Oh, that's the reason why.
Appreciate that.
I can be really loud. So you said that we cannot, or there's nothing available yet to move water that has been collected in one spot and then transport it somewhere else. Could the water be put in some kind of tank truck? No, can't even do that.
No, it's I'll grab the microphone. So, and this is for the thing. So the question was, the council knows that the water cannot be like captured on a roof and piped to another place. And could we capture it and then put it in some method of conveyance and move it to another spot? No, you're not allowed to do that. You're not, let me put it like this, you're not allowed to do anything like that without a permit. To date, no municipality has pursued a permit through the Office of State Engineers, because here's the deal. We're permitted for groundwater. That's what we do. We pull water from the ground. We have a permit for that. We will have a permit for surface water when the Ute projects connects. Rainwater is considered surface water, but our permit will be surface water from Ute. So if we want to collect surface water and then we want to treat it and use it, it's not off the table, but nobody's done it yet. But that's an option that we were about to pursue because the first answer we got on active rainwater capture and utilization at the site, the state initially felt like, well, it's a municipal building, so it belongs to the people, therefore the rain belongs to the people kind of concept. But then on second and third review, they're like, no, it's very similar to a privately owned building. So if you capture it at that site, you can use it at that site without a permit. So we got through that. That's cool. But as it meets the requirements, or we feel like there's a need to do active rainwater capture and harvesting with use somewhere else in the city, we will pursue that and we'll try to break through that paradigm and make that happen. But now's not the time. Right now, we've got a couple other things to do, and when we get really, really good at passive rainwater capture, which is like building swales and hold it temporarily, we'll do that. And then, and to give you an idea, most of our parks are built kind of like this, right? Most of our municipal landscaping is built like this. Most roads are built like this. Why? You want the rain to run off, right? You want the rain to run off. Once upon a time, we didn't worry about rain. And so when we built everything way back when, it was built like this. Well, now we want to capture it. So we want to look at a long-term strategy to all the municipal landscaping to kind of build it like this. All the parks, kind of like this. Not so much that if you put a soccer ball down, it's going to roll to the center, but enough that if a lot of rain came, it's going to run in and hold it temporarily. Yeah, on purpose or accident, I don't know. But on I Street by the university where those Conex boxes are. Anybody notice how when it rains a lot, it forms a pond there for about 2 or 3 days? But it's not really bad, right? It's not super bad. That's kind of what you want. We want to capture that water temporarily, hold it, let 18th Street chill out, let some other things chill out, and let the water soak back into the earth. So we want to, over time, take our landscaping from this to slightly this, take some of that water off of 18th Street and others, help those folks out along 18th Street and a couple other neighborhoods. That's horrible. We want to help them out of that situation. And then we want to capture some of that rainwater when the time is right. When we got this turned into this, and we got water like up here captured and stuff, then we'll start to look at transporting water from point A to point B after we hit all those milestones, I think. Okay, that's a big answer. It's not really clean and beautiful, but that's kind of where we're going with the city with water in the future, okay? All right.
To find more manpower for these jobs. I know I've lived in a previous city that when the kids got in trouble at school, that they would have to do a Saturday working for the city. And something like that, it helps the parents because they don't have to pay a fine, and the kids actually get a lesson in what they do has consequences.
So did anybody have anything?
They don't do nothing like that.
I'm making light. I'm not gonna touch that one at all. I get it. I get it. And I kind of get where you're going with it. Kids aren't inmates, but and I don't think you're saying that. But I've lived in places too where you have like oh gosh, real quick, Scott Minton story. So the other day I went fishing, and one of my favorite fishing places in the world. I'm going by. And there's a bunch of people picking up trash on Saturday. I thought, how nice is that? So I rolled down the window. I was like, "Thank you so much for picking that up. You're great. Thanks." And I just stared at him. And my son was like, "I think they're in jail." And they weren't in Orange or anything, but I was like, "Oh, that's bad." He probably
A lot of community service.
No, I get it. I get it. I think the guy thought I was picking on him, but I really meant it. I was like, "Thank you. I love this place. Thanks for picking up my." Yeah, I think they're in jail. Okay. But anyway, I get your point. I got it. I don't know that we're there yet, or we're ever going to get there, but I understand it. Yeah. On those kind of things. I'd go pick, I would do some. I would have my kids go out there if they weren't already 40. Yes, sir.
So question with the murals for the high school, like, for seniors and stuff, so back in another town where I used to live in, they used to ride on the road right in front of the high school. So my question is, could we possibly do that for the kids? I mean, them being kind of Easter maybe, like right from the administration, or
So the reason we can't do that is because the city doesn't own it. it has to be city owned for it to qualify for the Clean and Beautiful grant. But I mean, you can talk to the high school and say, and see if they'd be willing to do it themselves, but we can't do it with the Clean and Beautiful grant.
It was a question about that, so.
And what I like out of that is that's two people in a row, so I live in another town, which means people are moving to Portales, so awesome. That's three. There we go, we're growing, we're growing. Okay. We set, we got a lot of notes here. Going once. Going twice. Well, thanks everybody for coming, really appreciate it, can't do it without public involvement.